Hello and welcome. So recently I worked on a basically an El Cheapo unit which I tore apart and just ended up scavenging parts because it had a multitude of problems, like for example bad belts or cracked pinch roller and stuff like that. I also took the basically the cassette heads out. These are record and playback heads, and I thought to myself, okay, what can you do with an old basically an old head? What you can do, for example, you can check and see if your bias oscillator is basically working or not, or whether your erase head is basically working. You can what you do is use the old head and you attach it to the oscilloscope here, and then you turn the basically the cassette player on. You put it in the record mode because that activates then the bias oscillator and the basically the erase oscillator, which is in general, as far as I remember, they both are from the same, both come from the same circuit, but with the erase, of course, it's a lot higher voltage. And the bias oscillator voltage, which is in general that's a high frequency voltage, it's normally over, like, I would say at least from what I've seen so far, at least 50 kilohertz, might be 100 kilohertz, plus or minus some. And of course, you can't hear that at those frequencies, and that's combined, of course, together with the audio signal to give you a certain waveform. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this thing in. Like I said, I have to put this thing in record, because only then will the recording, the bias, basically what I want to say, the bias circuitry will be activated. And well, we should be able to see the bias signal quite well. With this down here, we go into the unit here. Like I said, of course, if you're going to open this thing up, I don't know if you'd use this technique. You'd probably just yeah, hook up your oscilloscope elsewhere. You know, you can see the I don't know if I can focus on there. Looks like this is like a, this unit doesn't have an extra like erase head somewhere like some of them do. It's got like an erase head and the, looks like a record and playback head, kind of like combined into one basically. So let's get the oscilloscope started up. So now you can see I've got the head down in there, and I'm actually holding it, and you just have to experiment how close you actually get in order to get a signal. I don't allow them to touch each other. I don't think it would hurt though. And let me show the bias signal. And right here you can basically see the erase head signal. That's going to be somewhat higher than your regular AC bias. Let me go ahead and see if I can't get that there. It's hard to hold the camera and do this at the same time. And this is the actual AC bias right there. This signal is actually lower than the other one. I had to go ahead and turn up the vertical amp on the scope here to get basically to get a reading. Let me move it over to the erase head again, so you can get to see, you see the difference. See, it's going basically off the scale. Now what I'm going to try to do is, next I'm going to go ahead and read the frequency just using the scope alone. So here's what we're basically going to do. We're going to measure one sine wave here. This is going to be the start point. This is the end point. And we see it takes up 1, 2, 2.5. 2.5 of these boxes. That's 2.5 centimeters. Each box is a centimeter, or a gradical, to 2.5 gradicals. And we're going to times that by our horizontal sweep setup, which I've got it set up for 5 basically 5 microseconds, and we're going to times that. I think it would be then 2.5 times 0.000005. So I actually did the math, and that was, again, it took up 2.5 of those radicals, a complete sine wave, and that times that by my horizontal sweep setting, which was 5 microseconds. So I multiplied that together, and then I came out with something like 0.000125 or somewhere around there. I'm not exactly sure. Anyways, I took that number and divided that into 1, basically. So it was 1 divided by that number, and I came out with 80,000, basically 80,000 hertz or 80 kilohertz. So anyway, this, to conclude this video, this might be one of the things you want to check if you're having problems with the recording. If your recording sounds distorted, or you're getting no recording at all, of course you got to make sure your heads aren't totally caked with dirt and your record playback switch is nice and clean. But if your AC bias is really low, then you might get some kind of distortion. Of course, the AC bias is used so you don't get that distortion. Basically, say if you put in a say if you fit in a regular sine wave without AC bias, and it wouldn't come out looking the way it went in. You know, it would be, I think they used to call that, because of the way the recording process is, it's non-linear, and non-linear basically, to me, basically means it introduces distortion. So again, I think your AC sine wave, then without the recording bias, it wouldn't look the same way when it was recorded as the one you actually fed it in.